When I first met Sylvester Stallone, I was surprised at how down-to-earth and friendly and outgoing he is. I mean, of course, you'd expect him to be outgoing since he's in the movie business. But he's a very likable guy, really easy to connect with. And one of the interesting things was he talked about how his life didn't always go so well. I guess the way that he came up with the inspiration for Rocky was from his own life. He had been in a camp when he was a kid. He participated in teaching boxing, actually. The only problem was he didn't know how to box. So he just wanted to find something fun. So he talked about how he got invited to this camp and he was able to get accepted there as a person who could do boxing and then teach other people how to box. And then one day somebody who was a professional boxer, or at least a competitive boxer, came to the camp and said, okay, well, let's go at it in the ring. And they ended up having a little boxing match in the ring. And this guy beat the crap out of Sylvester Stallone. So anyway, that's the story there. So then obviously he wrote the screenplay for Rocky 1, Rocky 2, and Rocky Balboa. He was he wasn't the director, but he was the writer for the script for each of those movies. He was the director, I think, for Rocky Balboa, but not for Rocky 1 or Rocky 2. Rocky was a whole series. I mean, it went on for a while. And so I'd met him later in life after he'd gone through the whole Rocky series and he'd been in most of the main movies that he's been in. He's in a new movie coming out, really interesting, about a guy who's a hero and an aging hero. It's sort of like a sci-fi movie. That'll be out. I guess that'll be out soon. At any rate, he had mentioned how he got really badly injured when he was in the Rocky movies because I guess he didn't even hire a stunt double. He just did all of his own stunts. So in a lot of the fighting scenes, like when Hulk Hogan and him are fighting, he actually had a vein tear apart in his pec muscle. Not entirely different than my story. I actually tore both pec muscles on both sides of my body due to having used this Accutane, which was really toxic. The Accutane caused me to have a toxic liver, and the pec major sternal muscles are related to the liver. And the main emotion of the liver is anger. At any rate, Sylvester Stallone had a similar injury. Just so happens we kind of connected on that point a little bit. And he was really concerned about how well, I was at a convention when I saw him. He was speaking at the convention, and he was concerned how he was being perceived by everyone and whether or not people really liked him and were excited to hear about him, which was interesting because it's Sylvester Stallone we're talking about here, right? It's not like a guy who's not popular or something like that. Okay. But he was really concerned nonetheless. He wasn't sure if people liked him. Everybody liked him a lot. As you know, most people like Sylvester Stallone. So that's my story. And he talked about how the Rocky characters would often really barely make it in the movies. They'd barely make the fight, and then they'd win in the end. And that's sort of like a parallel to his own life, where he was barely able to get into the movie business, even though he's been one of the most successful actors ever. He had a lot of trouble getting into it initially as a kid. They didn't want to have him play in the Rocky movie, even though he wrote the screenplay for it. But they accepted him, and then he got in the whole series, and he did really well, obviously. So really, really interesting stuff. So I just wanted to share that with you. Thanks for watching, and we will see you at the next Adventures with Dr. Ilya. Peace.